Welcome to the Wrestling Still Cool podcast. This is KM. That's Mark.
How y'all doing?
All right, this episode we're going to be reviewing the 1998 Halloween Havoc that took place on October 25th, 1998 from the MGM Grand Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. But before we get into that, Mark wants to say a few things.
For y'all that maybe have heard about it in the wrestling news today and probably yesterday as well, the wrestling world as well as the songwriting world lost a good guy. His real name is John Condrone. He's a Dove award-winning songwriter as well as a Grammy nominated songwriter. But he was first a wrestler as a career. Started in 1979 in Chattanooga. That's just about like an hour or so away from where I'm at. And he was more of an enhancement talent, I believe, the way I always perceived as that. But funny guy on social media. And he wrestled in WWF, WCW, GCW, ECW, TNA. His last run was a short run in TNA, but he passed away yesterday around right around noontime, and he was battling COVID-19 symptoms in the hospital. He was in the hospital for like about a month, but I didn't even know that he was a wrestler. To give you a little long story short, a few years back, I was doing a radio interview and a TV show as a recording artist, and the woman that was hosting the show mentioned, "Hey, you should go contact John Condrone. Y'all will get along," and so forth, so on. So I contacted him. He has contacted me back. We never wrote, but it was nice of him to at least contact me back. And I learned eventually, very quickly, that he was also a retired wrestler for years and years by the name of Johnny Meadows. If you ever want to watch his matches, there's one specific one that they have on YouTube. You can check it out. It's Diamond Stud versus Johnny Meadows, which is Scott Hall from back in years ago. He wrestled against Ric Flair and a number of other guys out in the ring for many years. But anyways, passed away. He was, I believe, 59. And, but he's a good guy and lost his life. I just want to give pillow respects for y'all that might have heard of him. And it's sad to happen, but anyways, wanted to just cover that. So Godspeed to you. All right, let's go ahead.
Yeah. I personally don't know this person. I mean, you mentioned it to me earlier what happened, so
Yeah.
I never heard of him either, even though the news report you showed me, he was a former guy for WCW, which is odd because I would think I would know almost everybody from WCW from my tenure watching it. But
yeah,
everyone, I don't know how this became a questionable thing, but please take the COVID-19 serious. There's a lot of people that have passed away from it, and it's unnecessary at this point. Please take precautions. All right. After a brief silence there.
absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said absolutely.
The commentary with this one is Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, and Bobby Heenan. The three amigos when it comes to pay-per-views. And I will be upfront and honest. I have a lot of nostalgia for this pay-per-view in general. I believe it was either the first or one of the first pay-per-views I've ever watched for wrestling at all. And I can honestly tell you, I remember the apartment that I was living in as a child when this was on. I remember even my mom's couches and where I sat watching this on the 32-inch Zenith tube TV.
Wow. Throwback there.
Yeah. It's kind of nuts because this whole pay-per-view and this love of wrestling is what got me made me want to get the game WCW versus NWO Revenge.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was a great game right there.
I played that for many years.
Oh yeah.
And every now and then I would try to change the characters' names because, like in that, you can edit what they wear in their names. Not the movesets or anything crazy like that, but like I would try to make characters randomly different things just to try and expand the roster and whatnot.
Yeah.
Either way, this starts off. Now, this is one of the things they talk about in the pay-per-view. This is one of the first pay-per-views that had the Nitro Girls throughout the pay-per-view. This pay-per-view also goes down in history because they did not have enough time with pay-per-view or whatever they called it at the time. And it ended up getting the last match cut off. And they had to air the last match during the last half hour of Nitro the following night to kind of make up to the fans. So,
hey, did you say back then that if they called it pay-per-view?
With Turner and closed circuit television, it was called something else at the time. They said pay-per-view, but it was.
They still called, yeah, that still was pay-per-view, but at that time frame.
I remember when we ordered it, it was called something else. It didn't say pay-per-view. It said like it might have been in demand or something like that. And I actually remember my mom having to call the cable company to get this.
Yeah, that's what we did tell you.
Man, memories. All right. This starts out with a promo from Rick Steiner with Mean Gene where Buff comes out and basically offers to help Rick because at this time, Buff was off TV for a bit and came back and either the week before or a couple weeks before, he's still in the chair and almost try to hit Scott to set this up. And basically it looks like Buff Bagwell changed his ways and was going to help Rick Steiner in the match later, and ended up being with the promo later ended up being with Scott against Scott Steiner and the Giant for the tag team titles. And if Rick Steiner wins, he gets a one-on-one match with Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
Then there was this what they ran through as an unscheduled match. It was one of the ones they didn't advertise, but it was Raven versus Chris Jericho for the TV title. In the beginning, Raven sits down in the corner, cuts his promo that, he wasn't meant to be here. He was up too late, which Bobby the Brain talks about a little bit beforehand. He was up too late. He wasn't meant to wrestle. He's not going to wrestle. So he walks out. Jericho picks up the mic, basically makes fun of him. And I can't remember if he was a face or a sniveling heel at this point. But he basically said all the neutral. Okay. He said all the Jerichoholics wanted to see him wrestle, and that Jericho equals buy rates, Jericho equals fans, rear ends in the seats, and Jericho equals rock and roll.
Tweet today.
Yeah, which was tweeted out today, and if you guys saw it on Twitter, it was retweeted by Jericho. But if you really think about it, with how much he does with AEW and Fozzy, it still rings true today that 22 years later, Jericho gets pay-per-view buy rates. Jericho gets people in the building. Jericho is in a rock band. But in any case, he calls Raven a loser, which drags Raven in. They just start attacking each other. Jericho even tries to whip Raven with the leather jacket at one point. One of the things I really dug about this match, and this is kind of more about Jericho's ability to get people to laugh at him, but they're outside the ring, and Bobby says you don't want to be on the outside with Raven. There's a lot of toys there, playing up his hardcore abilities. But Jericho, the camera gets really in close, and Jericho in this whiny voice screams, "Help me!" But in any case, Canyon comes out, hits Jericho. Raven sets up Jericho for the even flow. He counters it and goes into a lion tamer, and Raven taps immediately, and Jericho wins. And of course, with winning, Jericho's doing his hooray hop, if you will. So, what did you think of that match?
Awesome match. I was highly entertained, man. It was there was no flaws really. There wasn't much flaws, I should say. I was great and enjoyed it. Promo, Jericho, Raven, man, didn't let me down at all. Great kick off the show.
Mhm.
And ironically, it was the highest rated match I had for the cards. I had rated a 7.5, and that to me that was like pretty much the best. Other than Steiner's, that was the best match of the night. That's my viewpoint on that one. But yeah, great. Jericho has never let it really. Like if I can talk. Jericho has not let anybody down in the ring and on the mic. He's always delivered. As far as I've ever seen him in WCW and WWF, WWE, AEW, see him a time or two in ECW. Before that, I can't say anything about because I didn't watch him before that. But yeah, highly entertaining, and we said it recently on the archives on the 30th anniversary show for AEW. We talked about it then too. He's great. There's a reason why he's still relevant after all these years. 30 years, man.
Yeah. I rated it high too, and 8 out of 10. Now, for me, this was my introduction to both Jericho and Raven. I actually, during the early parts of me watching WCW, I was actually a big fan of Raven. I dug his promo style. Both these guys are really good promo styles. Raven. This is my last. This is my introduction to. This is my introduction to Raven and Jericho. And in the early parts of me watching WCW, I was a big Raven fan. Jericho and Raven have a lot of different strengths. Raven is not as technical in the ring as Jericho. They both have really good promos, but Raven's more of a psychological wrestler. Like, he wants to tell a story. He wants to put the psychology into it. So there's always a good, you'll get a good psychological match from Raven. Next up is Hogan and Bischoff, and Hogan cuts a promo on a horse, basically about him battering and beating his nephew. And the commentary kind of puts it over the fact that it was his dead brother's kid, and basically trying to make Hogan out to be like this worst person you could ever meet because of it.
I thought it was a little over top of the way they, especially Eden, have emphasized that. But it's like, okay, I get the point. I was like, I need to emphasize that, but yeah, I got you.
Exactly, and like, and this is not the only time they play it up throughout the pay-per-view. It's a common thread.
Yeah.
Then there was this little thing, and I wrote this down. I made a note of it just because it's part of the ridiculousness from Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Love him though.
I'm sorry?
I said love him though.
Yeah. This is the set that was very well known for Halloween Havoc. It's the Gargoyle, Holy, and Pumpkin. This is actually a set that they used, I believe that they used in Revenge. This is one of the things that kind of blew it out, is that Snickers presents WCW Halloween Havoc. Any case, so they zoom in on the set. Shivani goes, "That's the giant gargoyle that we have here," and Brian says, "He made a joke. He made a joke, basically saying gargoyle. I just met her in backstage last night." And Shivani goes, "Yeah, I should have probably not set him up, right, Mike?" And Mike goes, "That was so easy for him."
That was Bobby, not Brian.
Yeah, Bobby. Wow. I'm mixing Bobby the Brain into Brian.
Yeah, that was a good joke. I love Bobby Heenan on commentary, man. He is awesome.
Yeah, Bobby Heenan, and I've always been like, for me, it's kind of weird because WCW had the right people for them. They had Mike Tenay, Shivani, and Heenan, and WWF had the right guys with them for King and JR. Like, those are up there commentary teams.
Yeah.
And especially in nowadays WWE, you really don't have anything like that. I've made a remark several times that I really don't like WWE's overall polish to try and present it like the NFL would for the Super Bowl. I when it comes to commentary for wrestling, I actually really like Samoa Joe and Wade Barrett currently.
If I was to take a pick, it'd be Raw's team, and especially with Tom Phillips and Samoa Joe. That Braxton, he's fair. He's all right. But if I was to take a pick for WWE.
The only thing I don't like about Phillips and Braxton, they